of Angels Sunday morning, midnight movie money time as we get into the big hits this weekend. It was a weak weekend. Look, this is Labor Day. It's a 4-day frame for the studios, right? Because you get that extra holiday, but it was just bad. If not for Jaws, we'd be looking at a very disappointing weekend, even more so than it already is. In fact, let's go right to, you can see here on THR, you can see that Weapons wins this at $12.4 million, and Jaws ends up beating Caught Stealing and The Roses. Those are the two new entries that were wide this weekend. So this is minus 25% versus last summer at this time when you still had Deadpool in theaters. You also had Alien Romulus kicking around, and even a Reagan, which opened with $10.3 million. That's bigger than either Caught Stealing or The Roses. Let's get to the Warner Brothers email, and we break it down with Weapons to start here at $10.2 million. That's the 3-day. The 4-day, $12.4. The global on this now, $234.6 million, and you can see the domestic is outpacing the international again. When you look at Warner Brothers, they had this happen with Sinners, even more so with the domestic over the international. In this case, you really want to see that international a little bit higher. But listen, this is all profit, man. It's a $38 million film that's at $234.6 million. And for some reason, I don't understand it. We'll talk about it tonight. Some people want to include this in the Best Picture race. I mean, after we had films like Everything Everywhere and Anora win Best Picture, I guess it's not too far-fetched to say that we could see Weapons as your Best Picture of 2025. Or Sinners, another hellaciously overrated movie. Good God. But you look at the film, obviously massive success for Warner Brothers, and Zach Krager is the it guy here in Hollywood. Let's knock out all of Warner Brothers because neither of the other two films are in the top 5. So let's just get rid of Superman right now and look at $611.4 million. And again, who called it the ace, the man, the myth, the legend? You're looking at it, Mr. MMT Weber said that F1 would beat Superman in the worldwide box office, 613.3. It is still there, almost 2 million over, 1.9 plus for F1 over Superman. So let's hear it for the man right here. Like, subscribe, let's go. You know you're watching the gold standard, right? Of course you do. Let's talk about the other films here this weekend as we go ahead and go to Sony. And I'm going to go to their international email because I think there's more interesting stuff in what's happening from Sony. We'll get to Jaws in a second. I want to do Caught Stealing because it only at $7.8 million, which is disappointing. You talk about Austin Butler. They're trying to make him the name superstar. And there is a big debate now we'll talk about tonight. Are there even stars anymore? Right, we just saw Sydney Sweeney release 2 films. Granted, they weren't like headliner kind of things, but either way, neither one did well. They both bombed spectacularly. So you look at stars now, I just don't know if that's even a thing. And I think we've seen that aside from a holdover star, like a Tom Cruise, like a Brad Pitt in F1, right? When you look at this right here, you're talking about Caught Stealing, only 5.4 million overseas. And when you go to the overall snapshot of how this film did theater per theater, we call that the per theater average. Look here at Caught Stealing. It's number 3. I'll get back into this in a minute. I'll bring the whole thing up. This is only at $21.87 per location for Caught Stealing. That's bad. These small films, and Caught Stealing's a small film, and so is The Roses. These are not doing well. Okay? And that is very problematic for Hollywood when you look at them trying to bring in a bunch of awards films here shortly. And that's not working. Because of no windows, because people know they'll be at home streaming in a week or two. These are all issues. But I want to point out this. Demon Slayer Kimetsu is doing really well overseas. It's in the Sony email. It's why we're sticking here with Caught Stealing. It all flows, sort of. $42 million overseas. This thing could end up opening at $20 million plus when it gets here September 12th. I'm just drawing your attention to Demon Slayer Kimetsu. Also, let's talk about Materialist since we're here because they're handling Sony's dealing with that A24 film overseas. You guys, that film is made $90 plus million worldwide, 92.6. Wow. I bet you never realized that film was at 92.6 million. Insane, right? I like Materialist. I did not hate that film. It's not exactly what you're advertised, but Celine Song is without question a director to watch. Elegance in cinema when she makes the film. But 92.6 million, just wowzers. Let's go to Jaws, and I will pull up the per theater average, because I think that's really what's important here. You look at Jaws, and you go across here to 2,500. But again, this is a very old film, right? We're talking about 1975. 8.1 million on the reissue, and a lot of this cash came from IMAX, because that is how people want to see movies. So Jaws comes in and beats both Caught Stealing and The Roses, and that is huge. When you talk about 2.2 million of this cash that it made came from IMAX. Again, the preferred way to go is you see Deadline break it down right here. And if you're a studio, this is why they are so invested in IMAX, because you get a huge return. Plus, you get that upcharge on the ticket sale, right? Those PLF screens cost more unless you have, and you're really smart because you listen to MMT, you have A-List or you have Regal Unlimited. Well, I don't know. I think Regal Unlimited charges you, right? But not A-List. AMC is all included. IMAX, Dolby, 3D, Prime, whatever you want. It's all the same when you click the button for the ticket. 4 movies per week. You guys, you have to have it. It doesn't make any sense not to. Freakier Friday was number 4 at 6.5 million, down 27%. And then we get to The Roses, which is only at 6.4%, back to that location average. And that actually did slightly better than Caught Stealing, but only 2,300. You know, in the old days, we get to 5,000 or more per location. And remember, this is without inflation, so that 5,000 was more than today's cash. So that shows you what we're talking about when I talk about movies in trouble, right? We talk about movies like Caught Stealing, The Roses, Toxic Avenger bomb this weekend. It's not a good film. We'll talk about that tonight in the MMT evaluation. But anything that's not a giant tentpole or a big buzz film like Sinners, like Weapons, obviously a F1 tentpole, Fantastic Four is now over $500 million. Finally, it gets there. When you talk about those films are okay. Everything else, like a Honey Don't just bombed, did even worse in its second weekend. Relay felt 80% in its second weekend. Right? The visual of a film like Relay, right? The optics for the average person at home looking at a film like Relay, they're like, that I can watch on Amazon Prime in a few weeks because of the windows. Guys, if you don't know Windows, quickly, back in the old days, 90-day window meant when it debuted in a theater, you could not see it at home for 90 days. Then in the old days, tonight we'll watch an old Blockbuster video, tour of the place like in 1993. Very nostalgic, almost makes you want to cry. Then it would go to Blockbuster and do well, and that's the cycle. Now it's not like that. Now it's dump it in theaters, get like 3-4 weeks out of it, put it on digital at a high price. People buy it at $20+, and then eventually it goes to straight streaming and or a lower rental cost. But that's what's happening, and it's hurting theaters. There's no question about it, guys. 0. And you look at the numbers and you can see it. Let's do top 10 because it was, again, a slow weekend. There's not a lot to talk about other than Jaws beat the newbies. Weapons is still number 1. And Fantastic Four went to 500 million. Okay? Toxic Avenger bombed. What else you want to talk about? Weapons number 1. Still in its 4th weekend. Jaws 2. Caught Stealing 3. Middling debut of about $2,200 per location. Freakier Friday, number 4, down just 27%. That film's at 130 million worldwide. You'd think it'd be a little bit higher than that, right? But, yeah, you know, It's not Lilo and Stitch. It's a better film than Lilo and Stitch. I didn't hate Freakier Friday. Lilo and Stitch is just unfunny, right? I know it's for kids. I get it. But it's just like, ugh, right? A lot of these films these days are like, ugh. I've really suffered through a lot of stuff. Toxic Avenger was definitely one of those. It's fun for the first like 30 minutes, and then you're like, oh, God, I got another hour of this. Hour and 10 minutes? Hour and 10? How is this not 125? Get me in and out of here in 115. Then I wouldn't have hated it as much. The Rose is number 5. Again, 2,300 per location. Not impressive. Fantastic Four, 6. Bad Guys, 7. Superman, 8. Nobody, 2. 9. That film's only made $20 million stateside. That's another bad film I suffered through recently. And Naked Guns, number 10, now at $50 million on the stateside cash. And that is your snapshot this weekend. As we look ahead to next weekend, another slow one, very likely. Listen, we're not going to see another big film. And I don't even know if you really want to call it a big film, right? Talk about Tron Ares coming out in October. You just saw Mortal Kombat moved out, so that's out. You look at Tron. Tron is the next film that'll have people saying, oh, I kind of want to go to the movies. All these other things are like, well, I mean, Jaws is back. Let's see it. This is the problem. We've got to have more compelling options when we talk about films that make people want to go to the multiplex. And Tron is the next film that will have a chance at a $50 million opening. Until then, it's just going to be college football, pro football, and the theaters going, we'll give up. Also tonight, we'll talk about the award situation with Venice, okay? Also with Telluride and soon to come Toronto. Those awards films are coming in. We'll look at how those are stacking up. When you say from a box office perspective, we've got real problems because, look, here's the deal. These small films are going to perform exactly how what we're seeing now. Now, granted, a Begonia might do a little better because of the name recognition, but still, we are not going to see a film come in and do even Poor Things numbers from a few years ago. I said this repeatedly, and one more time before we get out of here, we'll talk about it at length tonight. The post-COVID marketplace helped out cinema because people were excited to be back. You look at a Poor Things, you look at a lot of those smaller films that ended up doing much better than they should have. It's because people were like, I'm back in movie theaters. That novelty is gone, and now you've got to figure out how do we save if we can even try to get back there. It's not going to be ever again like it was pre-2019, that range, go up, and you talk about a film that was platform that opened at like 75,000 per, 100,000 per, 150,000 per. Those days are over. Cinema's in big trouble. I know I'm right, and you know I'm right. Bottom of your heart, you know I'm right, and it sucks, but it's true. We'll talk about it tonight on The Big Show, along with Sydney Sweeney's Twin Bombs. Wait till you see the picture for that stream. Peace out, guys. See you later tonight.